Well, welcome to another Voice Essentials specialist session. My name's Dr. Dan, and on a regular basis, a semi-regular basis, I like to interview a number of my friends and colleagues from across the globe who, have invested time and effort and experience into their singing voice. And this next guy is not just a colleague; he is a personal friend, and I know we're going to have a lot of fun talking with him today, and I can see him on a screen as I'm talking. I'm just going to cut to it, and we're going to have a lot of fun today, so stick around.
Sound check. Check one, check two.
Hey, I come from a place called Logan City, and pretty much everyone shops at Lifeline anyway. So this looks like a trip to the Hyperdome to me. Well, I've got rhythm, I've got music, I got my pals who could ask for anything more. I hit the Lifeline shop and I bought the only thing that didn't rhyme with Bob. It was a hat. Fancy that. Who could ask for...
Yeah, Hello, Craig Burnett. How are
G'day,
you, my friend?
I'm good, Dr. Dan. It's good to
Dr. Dan, nice.
good to be online with you.
Is it just?
No.
No, I didn't think so. Hey, as you know, I'm doing these specialist sessions, and it's an opportunity for me to have a good old chinwag with friends and colleagues, and you get to be number 2 on the specialist session hit list. 2 from 2. That does mean that you're last currently.
Well, it's like a talent quest. It's like the runner-up in the talent quest, isn't it? You get $100.
You do get well, no, you don't actually.
Oh.
But look, tell us a bit about yourself. Tell us, how you got into this singing thing, and then let's see where this crazy, 20 minutes takes us.
Got serious about music through high school, I guess, where there was older males in the music program doing the bands and the choirs and that sort of thing, and that twigged my interest. I had a bit of a knack for it, but was been through a few instruments: euphonium, keyboard, organ, drums. Picked up guitar and voice in high school and went from there. And by the end of high school, I thought, yep, I want to be Anthony Warlow. And that didn't work out. So we auditioned for the con, got into the Queensland con, and started in opera, actually, because back in the day there wasn't really a strong music theatre program anywhere, or a contemporary. And so I was doing the classical thing, and to be honest, I just was not invested enough in it. My voice was not my life. And I was a pretty average student as well. So that didn't help. So what do? If you fail in classical, you move to jazz, and that's what I did, and that's actually where Daniel and I, Dr. Dan, spent a lot of time,
there will be a few people that take find the reference to, if you fail at classical, you go across to jazz.
You want me to? I'll start again. I'll do all that again.
It's completely fine. Just keep going. It's still rolling. Keep going.
Still rolling. So yeah. And look, I certainly valued my classical lessons. And when the light bulbs went on, it was really cool. Like, oh, that's what's happening. Hey, that feels right. Yeah, that effortlessness, that's there. But I wasn't a particularly disciplined student, so those moments were kind of fleeting. And I ended up doing a pedagogy post grad, and that at that stage was where I thought, you know what, that's where I really learnt to sing. Because we were looking at technique. We had some coaching with one of the great teachers at the con, and I found that really helpful. Out of the con, I'd started performing in some corporate bands and some cafe stuff. I'd been doing an originals band, that sort of thing, which kind of fought the classical thing, and even the jazz and the theatre thing to some point. It was sort of difficult to navigate that vocally. And to be honest, I didn't end up doing any theatre after I left school. It was probably 10 years later I did one musical theatre production, and I enjoyed it. But again, I haven't picked it up.
What was that? Was that a Harvest Rain gig?
It was a Harvest Rain, a Brisbane theatre company, and I had one of the roles in that. And look, great experience. It was great to be doing some theatre, and it's still on the list. I'm not over the hill yet. I could still get by for what, 29, I reckon. Have a shave down to 25. What?
No. I don't think either of us are going to pass for our 20s any longer, my friend.
There's not a grey hair in there. Anyway. So what can I say? In that journey, I picked up. I picked up a role. I started fronting a Brisbane-based jazz combo called Scat, and I've ended up being with them for about 15 years, and that's kind of, that's been the main thrust of my my performance career, and we do a range of stuff. We do jazz festivals and jazz venues. We do the corporate work. We also connect strongly to the Christian community and play some of the gospel festivals, and that's been a great vehicle and a great journey, being connecting with so many different audiences, from the legit kind of jazz crew to the family crowds at churches and gospel festivals, and then able to make a little bit of a living off that as well through the corporate scene mainly, and that's I've gotten to meet a lot of people, and I suppose the other thing that we might talk about later is that's where my recording has come in with that band. So we've done it's probably 5 albums now, and that's part of my vocal journey in the failures and successes that have happened in the studio, and what that has prompted me to pursue.
Tell us, unpack that vocal journey for us, because there's going to be a lot of people watching this video who, are either, on that journey, or they're wanting to start that journey. And I've just got to change this video over so I'm not just me. And, for you, for most singers, I never meet, I've never met a singer, maybe they exist, but I've never met a singer where their journey has been completely, they sing once and then boom, they're a megastar.
Yeah.
What has your journey been? What does it look like, and how would you describe it?
Sure. Look, it took me twice. Sung twice, and then I was no. How would I describe it? Oh gosh, I'd describe it as a mess, to be honest. Just all over the show, really, until the last few years, where I've started to feel a lot more comfortable in my voice and my skin. And let me say, that's not going to be everyone's journey at all. If you can get the right things in place early, then I think you'll have a better time of it, and you'll avoid a lot of the, I guess the pitfalls that I sort of hit. And I'm not saying anything disparaging about the classical world, but some of the confusion technically came in for me because I, was initiated with vocal lessons and technique and into the classical thing. And then I didn't really pick up probably a genuine intentional contemporary technique till much, much later. I was kind of just a hybrid, and I thought, there was a bit of language around at the time that said, classical is the technique. It's the only legitimate basis for everything. And I kind of took that on very, very strongly. What I found myself doing was as the years went by after I graduated, I would continue to exaggerate elements that I would associate with the classical thing in terms of, relaxed or low larynx and, open spaces and yawny sensations and all that, which are only, part of the picture of classical, But to take those few things and exaggerate them meant that was kind of my only tool or my only approach. And I thought relaxed throat was this. And so whenever I was sort of hitting notes, out of my core kind of range and, up in the high baritone and that sort of thing, I just kept opening up. And I was in gigs. I can visualize myself just doing that often and trying to cope with higher notes. And, that was kind of my only, a bit of breath management and a bit of this. And it really got me into trouble. And I discovered in the studio, we'll come back to the studio, where, you know, your voice is isolated, where you're hearing all the detail. I discovered, hey, I've got this tremor in my voice and I can't actually sing over it or around it. I can't get rid of it. And it almost felt like it was right through my range to a point, and really sticking out. And I was incredibly frustrated. I remember being in a session, just, you know, like almost in tears, because I was so like, you know, this is the early days. We're paying for, you know, studio time, and there's lots of pressure, and we've got to get this right, and I'm not making a sound that I can be happy with at all. And that's where I went to speech therapy, and I had been in the past, but I went to a speech therapist. And they just identified it as tongue root tension and gave me some exercises, and that helped. But what helped even more was when I went back for some lessons, some coaching with Dr. Dan actually, and still the tongue root tension was a problem. And I guess for the speech therapist, like, I wasn't putting it into context of singing, and therefore I understood, you know, what they were talking about. The exercises made sense, but it just didn't kind of, I don't know, it didn't stick. Once I got into the vocal studio, dealing with the tongue root tension, and then, you know, rejuvenating technique, and Dan picking up some things straight away. Like every time I'd sing, I'd set my throat, I'd drop my larynx, and I'd actually lock it in place. And that was a habit. That was habitual. I've been doing it for years. And I had to be very intentional to not drop my larynx every time and lock it in. And so there was a few real key technical things which started to get my voice back on track. And started to help me have, you know, a free, relaxed voice again, where the norm is this kind of neutral, relaxed space. And I can go back to, okay, if something's not easy, if some notes aren't coming out the way I want to, you know, there's only a couple of things I need to kind of think about, and that's, you know, what's my larynx doing, sort of where's the placement, and do I have that kind of relaxed posture, or am I sort of reaching or gripping for something? And I found that really helpful.
One of my, I guess, you know, what people have come to know me as advocating for, and that is that, you know, contemporary singers shouldn't be developed by virtue of classical technique. You know, if you want to learn to sing contemporary material, you need to learn to sing with a contemporary technique, etc. Mm-hmm. And equally for classical. Do you feel that it was by virtue of your classical upbringing that, you know, that formed those habits for you that were then a negative factor in your contemporary vocals, or?
Yeah, definitely, and certainly been out of touch with the vocal coach, because as I said, I was just exaggerating these one or two elements, because I hadn't really nailed a classical technique at all in itself. So, you know, to take some of the gems and then try and apply them to everything, and it just didn't work. I might mention another thing that I've really taken on board, and I'm still working on. You know, I'm 37 now. But I find myself, hey, I've got a long way to go, is just over singing, you know, and again, being in the studio with Dan, having a mic next to me in the studio and him just saying, you know, not so much, you know, you don't need all that power, and a lot of the time it's inefficient, it's wasted power, it's over singing, it's driving the sound, and all that sort of thing. But I still find myself doing it in the live situation. It's just easy to kind of amp up. But it doesn't serve you. It might feel good for a few bars, but, you know, 40 minutes later or the next set or whatever, I'm wearing out, and it's because, I didn't really take it easy. I
I often talk about that balance between holding your technique in place and creating that sense of performance energy as an apex skill. It's getting that balance just right, isn't it? And it's also so easy for all of us, me included, that when we hit the stage and the audience is pumping and the band's pumping behind you, to just the technique can just find itself flying out the window. How do you find yourself working on managing that balance? Because it's a very difficult skill to master.
It's a great question. I think I've had to fail again and again and again, and I'm still failing at balancing it because it's not at the forefront of my mind. You know, I'm just not intentional enough about it until it becomes a problem. Then I just go, oh, I've oversung, and now I'm going to struggle for the rest of the gig, and it's not enjoyable. And so it's just, for me, it's just kind of learning by failure. If I keep frustrating myself, it becomes important enough. I seem to be. That's kind of how I roll in life. Just ask my wife. So yeah. But you know, on the hopeful side of it is, hey, when I do it, I feel good. I can have a decent length of a sing across a gig or a concert, and I can get up the next day and do the same thing again. But it certainly is. There's a mental discipline to, even a bit of self-talk before I start. Okay, I'm feeling comfortable with the foldback. I've got a mic in front of me. I don't need to. There's no band to sing over because I've got foldback. It's the 21st. Is it the 21st century? Pretty sure it is.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm not singing acoustically. These are some great tools I have, and I can just relax, and my tone will sound better if I'm, up close to the mic, and I'm just, there's a bit of that sort of warm speech quality in the sound, and
That is a challenging thing for you to do, though. I mean, you are known, certainly around these parts, as being an incredibly energetic, exciting performer. I've been showing some video as we've been going along here. Your performance energy is very high, and so I can only imagine that. And I'm looking to cut you some slack. I'm looking to cut everyone some slack here. That it's very difficult to manage both of those points.
Yeah, you are right. And look, whilst I think I'm a good singer, and sometimes I'm a great singer, I get hired more often to entertain the crowd, and particularly at a festival crowd where the people don't necessarily know you, where you're not a favourite, or you haven't been there, or there's a really mixed crowd. I'm highly conscious of, hey, one of the great gifts that we bring to this situation is to engage the crowd in a way that no one else will, and take risks and jump off stage and run around with the guys and do, just crazy antics. And of course, technique goes out the window. Suddenly you're on a radio mic and you're trying to get someone out of the crowd to come and have a sing, or you're wandering around the crowd making up songs about berry floss or whatever it is. Your technique is the last thing on mine, and I guess there's a compromise there, and it's difficult to navigate. I would much rather stand there and sing ballads, and people would just be like, "Oh, this is incredible! I'm drawn into that performance." But that is rarely the reality. Maybe if I'm in a room with 30 people and they come just to hear us, that's the opportunity for that. And to be honest, my band, they want to play fast tunes and bebop all day and groove stuff. They don't like singers and ballads and slow stuff. It's like, what's happening? I don't know how to play them.
So you've ended up going down the jazz route. Why? Do you ever have a hankering? I find I often say to singers, students that I spent 20 years at the conservatorium to learn, and the two songs that I mostly sing are Advance Australia Fair and Waltzing Matilda. Do you find that there are that there's you're singing jazz a lot? Is it your chosen genre to sing, or are there other tunes?
Yeah, look, I definitely have a hankering for singing outside the jazz genre. I haven't found a great outlet performance-wise for that. I do other things. I do some weddings and the odd solo for different things, and touch on other styles. Music theatre is still a big love of mine, and so if there's an opportunity to sing a piece from a show, that's something. I'll just turn that on. And I'd certainly, as I said, I'm certainly interested in doing shows again. And also my own songwriting. Like I don't songwrite in naturally in a jazz genre, you know, even though that's my main performance outlet. And I get the language. It's not kind of my first language. I grew up on Simon and Garfunkel and Cat Stevens, and you know, so I'm probably more interested from a songwriting in a sort of folk pop indie hybrid, and if I've got to prepare something or do a cover of something, then that's kind of the way I'll take it. So that's an answer.
It is an answer. So we probably should start thinking about wrapping this up, and because there's heaps that you and I can. We'll come back to this, and we'll do further specialist sessions in the future with you. But if that's okay.
That is okay.
But I wanted to just ask you quickly 3 questions that I ask at the end of every every Voice Essentials specialist session, and that is, firstly, what is the worst performance you've ever done? Worst performance experience you've ever had?
As I've always said to my mentorees, your next performance is your worst performance. I've never said that to anyone. It makes sense. Look,
do you want to unpack that?
Worst experience after that studio experience. I mean, that's not a live thing. I've got this. I've got a festival, Easter Fest, and myself and my band have a great relationship. We've been doing it for 10 years. That festival, and we actually are running a jazz festival within the festival now. But the unfortunate thing about having a big stake in something is that you often can do a lot of gigs or get involved in a number of projects. And for about 7 years running, we had one of the last gigs of the festival late on a Sunday night. And I have never sung well at that event. And it's an event we have to rehearse a brass section with. We've got to think out. We've got to really kind of theme a show for. And, you know, like 2 songs in, I've lost my voice because I've spent 3-4 days at the festival, talking to people, organising things, still preparing for the show. I've also probably had a busy couple of weeks leading up to that particular festival. And that's kind of my peak. My main performance of the festival is this thing. So I've done everyone else's projects, I've done all this preparation, and hey, I'm supposed to be a singer in front of a band and I can't even sing. And it's so frustrating to lose your voice or to be, you know, again, the entertaining the crowd thing comes in. I'm too busy kind of keeping this, you know, you've got a couple of people there, a couple of thousand people there, and you're really very aware of, hey, my job here is to engage highly and help people have a good time. And the singing is just woeful. Like I get a video of it and I just think, oh, what a frustrating experience. My slow learning after years of doing that, what's the definition of insanity? You know, doing the same thing and expecting to get a different result, is I just cannot do that have that kind of program and then expect to sing well. And so I've got to, you know, as singers, as performers, we have to make a choice. What's leading up to that event? One is the longer term preparation, if that's your thing. It's not my thing, being prepared. Gosh, I'm not even wearing pants, to be honest. Don't worry, I've got shoes on. But, you know, in the immediate, those 3 or 4 days, are you getting sleep? Is there a lot of pressure on you? Close into the performance, have you been out, you know, have you met colleagues and you've been out chatting all day and you've been talking over noise or seeing other artists? Those things are going to have an impact. Down to the technical aspect of the show or the production aspect, have you had the opportunity to get some decent foldback, you know, at least volume, so you're not pushed into that illusionary space where I've got to sing louder to be heard out there because I don't have the confidence of good foldback. That's difficult at festivals, we all know that. But the more comfortable I can be on the stage, the more likely I'm, you know, in the lead up and in the presentation, the more comfortable I'm gonna be, the more likely I'm gonna sing well. And, you know, I guess I'm slowly learning that if I can manage my comfort, then I can be happier with my performance. So yeah, that's mine.
To use a well-worn cliche to sort of summarise what it's less is more, isn't it? You know, if the more focused you're able to be on certain gigs, the better you're going to sing it. In your defence, that particular fancy pants ball, it's not called that anymore, is it? It's called something else. It's
been extinguished, like a dangerous fire.
Probably because of the bad vocals, but that is one of an excellent example of a highly energized performance that you would give, and I'm not surprised that the voice would really suffer as a result. But that's that thing we were talking about before. Couple more things. What's your favourite technical vocal exercise? What do you use all the time?
Anything that helps me. I don't know. A bit of that, bit of this. Is that too specific?
Yeah, well, maybe you could drill down into that a little bit more for me.
I keep it simple. I'm not a technical genius at all, and just some simple 5-note stuff or some arpeggios, often on a mia or nya sound, because to me that helps me sort of settle my voice and sort of check in. Am I able to sing, within a small range at a time in a relaxed way with meow, 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 meow. Is it relaxed? Is it focused? As I move up my register, is my throat staying relaxed? That kind of just puts me in a good space, I think. And those sounds are kind of a bit more related to songs than maybe, lip trills or certain vowels or whatever. I just find it's a connecting exercise that helps me then move into singing comfortably.
Yeah, great. And finally, to finish off today, a lot of people watching this video are budding singers, they're developing singers. Some of them are professionals, but for the most part, I think most people are, starting out on their journey of wanting to develop in their singing. What do you think? What is the best piece of advice you can give as a person that has got 20 odd years of experience, is continuing to work in the field? What is the best piece of advice you would want to give a budding singer?
Sure. Look, as a singer, as a vocalist, my advice would be get into coaching. Get into technique and lessons and working on that. And if you're serious about, sustaining your voice and having a stable voice and a reliable voice, I can't recommend anything more. There's obviously musicianship and musicality, and that's about listening and repertoire and what you expose yourself to, all that stuff. But if you want to sustain yourself as a vocalist, I think the technique thing is so important. And I often look at other singers, and I can sing well naturally, but I look at other singers who've got these incredible, appealing aesthetics in their voice, and I know they don't take lessons, and they've probably got a naturally, I don't understand the physicality of it, but they can sing longer and better and higher than I can at my best. However, every now and again you hear them crash, and that they've done 5 gigs that week, or that they're tired or whatever, and you think, oh yeah, even those guys will crash. I think of the sprinter who is the Jamaican 100-metre champion. What's his name?
Is it Bolt?
Bolt. Total legend. My understanding is he is supernaturally gifted. He obviously trains hard, but it's direct commentary of him as a sprinter. He's faster than anyone in the world. He would be better if he worked on his technique. And I just think, that's right. Even the best of us that are so natural and have these great aesthetics would be even better and more reliable, and therefore have a longer, healthier career if they paid attention to technique. So the sooner you can get into it seriously, if you've got the opportunity, if you're studying, if someone else is paying for your lessons, and mum and dad or whatever, it is, then make the most of that, because later on it'll be harder, it'll be more expensive, you have to pay for it yourself, all that sort of stuff. So take the opportunity while it's there to develop your technique.
I love your sports analogy there. I often say, look, the best tennis players in the world, they all have coaches, and the you know, it's often a tragedy to hear a singer say, you know, almost wear it with a badge of pride. You know, I've never had lessons, and I go, oh, how much better could you be if you had the lessons? And it is the sustainability technique. Vocal technique is not something that's supposed to be, you know, observed on stage. It should be that subterranean river that sits underneath it gives life to everything above it. But it's not there to be seen. It's not there for us to ooh and ah over. It's there to keep the voice buoyant, and it particularly, like you said, in times of vocal stress and fatigue, that's where your vocal technique will come into its own. But you've got to have spent the time, haven't you? You've got to have spent the time and the effort, you know, in your own studio, engaging with the technique and really building and forming it into your muscle memory, so that when the voice needs to call on it, it's there.
It's there. Yep.
Anyway, mate, thank you very much for spending, you know, what has been about half an hour of your time.
No problem.
I'm going to close off now. Oh, you're a funny man. Here at Voice Essentials, look, my name is Dr. Dan, and I'm super keen to see you develop your voice and improve your sound. If you want to engage more with, we can't see it, Craig. It's just me on this. Look, I'm going to cut back. There we go. Yeah, you're very funny. Yeah.
Yep.
Here at Voice Essentials, we want to. Will you stop it? We want to see you develop your voice and improve your sound. Most people can really take advantage of developing their technique, and there are plenty of videos at the here at the Voice Essentials YouTube channel that are going to help you do that. So make sure you subscribe, and we'll make sure that we keep bringing these videos to you. Maybe not as funny and as hilarious as my friend Craig, but we'll do our best to keep bringing you premium information about the development of your voice. So until I see you in the next Voice Essentials video, my name is Dr. Dan. Sing well.